Thank you for downloading this podcast from the British Theatre Guide. For more information about British Theatre Guide, please visit britishtheatreguide.info.
Steve Marmion is currently in his second season as Chief Executive and Director of Programming for Watford Palace Theatre, but he also ran Soho Theatre in London for 8 years and founded a production company specialising in large-scale family shows called PantoCo Ltd. The next major production in Watford is, in fact, the Panto, for which he has managed to obtain the voice of Stephen Fry. I asked him how that came about.
We plunked for Jack and the Beanstalk this year, and then we were having to think about who could be our giant, and went through the old address book and thought, why not see if Sir Stephen will come and do it with us? I mean, we didn't fully factor in the timing of Celebrity Traitors, which has been a real bonus.
Yeah.
But what is great is we've managed to get a giant that does look a little bit like him as well. So he's kind of given us his full, bumbling, almost giant Melchit kind of version of a charming but flawed giant. And along with Dame Judy Henchman, his wicked sidekick, they run a cloud service that provides raindrops to the town of Watfordshire. And yes, all sorts of mayhem and trouble ensues. 2 big K-pop numbers for all the boys and girls. Just when you'd managed to get uppercut out of your head, that will be back. And obviously, it'd be wrong to do a panto without Golden in this year. So they're there. There's a very good cow called Jagger. There's an awful lot of beans that will be dropping on our heads. And yeah, something for everyone, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad name to have on the poster, but do you need a celebrity name on your posters for Panto, or do they sell out anyway?
You need a name on your poster to compete with the other Pantos that have got names on their poster, and we are surrounded by them.
Right.
We've got Eddie the Eagle, one direction, we've got Phil Mitchell the other, and we've got Davina De Campo the other, all within miles. So I think the interesting discussion around celebrity casting at the moment. And I think as long as you're not blocking pathways to the stage for new artists, what you're actually doing with celebrity casting is giving yourself a better chance of selling more tickets.
Yeah.
So I can't really complain about that. And actually, there are no compromises when you get the right celebrity casting, because I can't think of a better voice for a giant than Stephen Fry. So, whether we need to or not, I'll find out when we've done all the box office this year. But yeah, I think overall it's a positive thing, because actually it does mean nothing to the core audience. 5-year-olds don't know who Stephen Fry is. But anyone who's old enough to have listened to the Harry Potter audiobooks or beyond is going to feel a little bit of magic and glamour from it. So
yeah,
what Pantos are supposed to do, sparkle voice. Yes.
So where does Panto sit in terms of your theatre's programming? Is it still an essential part of the theatre's economy, I suppose?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, across the country, I think the statistics still 1 in 2 theatre tickets are to a panto. For us, it makes up around a third of our annual audience in 1 month.
Yeah.
So it is huge. The old adage of panto pays for Pinter is still true. I think when you're a funded theatre in the heart of, lots of leisure centres doing their big pantos and things like that, I think you're slightly beholden to try and keep the ticket prices as low as possible, and to make sure that it remains the most accessible and the last bastion of working class theatre.
Yeah.
I think those things are beholden to us. So I don't think it makes the level of contribution that Panto once did, but Pantos used to run up until Easter. They're nowhere near the level of contribution they used to make. But what we have found is that doing a Bollywood panto around Diwali really works. Those 2 styles join up. Cows play a big part in both cultures.
Yeah.
And
fancy costumes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And big song and dance numbers and dare I say, huge hammy overacting moments.
Yeah.
It worked really well. So with Rifco, we just did Cinderella, which is a lovely way of getting a panto in outside of panto season. So we'll be looking at doing that again. And then I've just got to work out the big Easter panto, and we can be the National Panto Theatre all year round. I think one of the things I love most about it, and this is the thing, that the industry I came into when I started working in theatre, not started going to theatres, had turned its back on panto.
Yeah.
And was doing the much more, I always described it as the middle-class Christmas story.
Right.
So a version of the Snow Queen, or Cinderella, the play version of it, or those kind of things. And I remember thinking what a shame that was at the time, in that we were both losing audiences of diverse socioeconomic backgrounds and the big cash cow of the year for making sure we could do all the other things we wanted to do. So I think when they came back into fashion for the NPOs, which, felt to me, Hackney did a lot of the paving the way for that. Lyric Hammersmith bringing panto back after 30 years of it being away. Those kind of steps, I think were brilliant for the industry. And now I think most of my peers, and certainly we, see it as the moment where everything comes together, and actually a programme that isn't 100% plays all year round. It's stand-ups, it's drag, it's music, it's tribute. Well, stick them all together and you've got panto.
Yeah.
It really is a coming together and a celebration of the whole of what we do, I think.
Yeah, so there's certainly an economic argument, but and I know you think panto is important. You're a founder of PantoCo, so you think panto is important anyway.
I do, yeah, and it does come back to that. It's the last working class theatre form. My mum always described panto as the only time of year she saw her mum wear lipstick. I just think it's ingrained into us. My wife's from Belgium, and I think one of my favourite things about panto is showing it to foreigners.
Yeah.
It's the least British tradition you could possibly have, and no one expects it of us.
Yeah.
They're like, we all do this every Christmas. How do they know to shout that? We're just born with it, I'm telling you.
We really are, aren't we? We know. When you look in a panto script, it says, hit this point, the audience will say, and they do, don't they?
Yeah.
They know
every
what to do.
single time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny when you get notes on a panto script of someone who's from a more traditional theatre background and might not have gone very much.
Yeah.
I have had the note, well, how will they know to say he's behind you? Well, because there's a baddie behind him. That's how they'll know.
Yeah, so it sounds like your panto is very localised. Are the scripts, I assume, they're written specially for your theatre, are they?
Yeah, absolutely. They are local, but as ever, local is the same in lots of places.
Yeah.
Our 12 Days of Christmas would probably work anywhere as long as you changed all the proper nouns.
Yeah.
So it's very local. It's very contemporary. It's in the tradition of panto to always innovate and be at that cut-in edge and intersection of pop and education between generations. So I make sure there's always a traditional comedy routine that Grandad can show you on YouTube when he gets home. This year, it's the two Ronnies answering the question before sketch.
Right.
Yeah. So there's always one of those in there. There's always music that Nana isn't going to have heard, but there's also songs that the kids aren't going to have heard that Nana's going to surprise them with. Salt and Pepper's Push It's 30 years old now.
It's frightening, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, so there's something for everybody, and that's the important thing, isn't it, for all classes and all ages?
Absolutely right, yeah. And I think COVID, in a strange way, helped us in live performance because we realised what we missed.
Yeah.
And I think you've got a generation coming through who value going out an awful lot more than perhaps, I don't know, it might be my age rather than my generation, but you get to the point you can just about afford to have nice things in your house, and then you try your hardest not to leave it.
Yeah.
Well, I think you've got a whole generation coming through that are desperate to be in those social situations together. And I think you look at the rise of things like the experiences that are for sale. Get a Formula One car and call it an experience and charge 40 grand a ticket. They just reinvented museums.
Yeah.
That's amazing, but it's in a brand package that makes it social. So immersive theatre, or site-specific theatre as we used to call it when we didn't charge £100 a ticket, those kind of things. So I think if we just switch the way we're thinking about it, that the formula for a play and the formula for an escape room are identical.
Yeah.
It's trap two people in a room and make them bare their soul.
Yeah.
That's the formula of both. So let's be the people making the escape rooms if they're really that popular, and that's how young people want to experience their stories, is to be literally in them. Well, makes sense if you grew up on computer games, not books.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. I know I've sometimes find it difficult to go out on a dark winter rainy night to stand at the bus stop into Manchester to go to the theatre, but it's often worth it when you get there, and you've got to sell that it's worth it when they get there, haven't you?
Absolutely, and in Manchester it really is. You've got a lot of smashing theatres.
Yeah,
I think the stats are now you've got 2 theatres for every person in Manchester.
Yeah, some of them have been struggling and closed, and they're not doing as much as they used to, but I think we're getting back there.
Well, that is the issue with some of the new ones. Until they find that economic model that works, it's going to be difficult, because we know public funding isn't going up anytime soon. So we are all trying to find different ways of singing for our supper. But it's interesting to see the commercial sector moving into live performance more and more. We've got new theatres opening in shopping centres in London.
Yeah.
And so, 2,000 seaters. So, and you look, Netflix moving towards live, Disney doing all that live work, new theme park opening in just down the road from us. Well, all of that stuff needs live performers, needs content, needs, you might be dressed as Luke Skywalker, but I tell you what, that's the main reason to become an actor, isn't it?
Well, yeah, who wouldn't? Yeah,
to dress up as Luke.
Yeah. So beyond Panto, what type of theatre is Watford Palace? Where does it fit in the community? Who's your audience?
That's a great question. And it's a bit of a simplistic answer. It's Watford and anything that looks, feels, smells, and and feels like Watford. So we position ourselves as Watford's Palace of Entertainment. I think we're keen to lean into our musical roots, so not to be ashamed of Katie Price and Kerry Katona being alongside an Oscar Wilde, or a space horror being next to a new version of Sense and Sensibility. So we're keen to be something for everyone. We're aware that also means everything for no one. I challenge anyone to like everything in the programme.
Even you.
Yeah. Oh God, I didn't like everything in that. I can't tell you the ones I don't like, but I think theatre would be a very short-lived industry if we just programmed to my taste.
Yeah.
So we're trying to be everything in those ways, but we're also trying to stay true to the theatrical urge to be innovative and to be at the cutting edge of technology. As a lot of the listeners probably know, the Soho Theatre was the first building to have electricity in it. So at some point during the 20th century, theatre took its eye off technology. But I think when you're looking at even the literature and fiction industry is needing to crack TikTok to sell their books, and the person who cracks TikTok will be the bestseller this Christmas.
Yeah.
I think when you see that happening to an industry as old as books, you know that you've got to be in that in some way. And if I look at my TikTok feed or anyone's Instagram reels, it looks like Sunday night at the London Palladium.
Yes.
There's normally a cute dog, a magic trick, a stand-up doing a bit of material, a bit of a sing-song, a celebrity of some kind telling you a thing they hadn't told you before, and then you're back to a dog act. So
it's music hall then, basically, isn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So the thing that we're all looking at the screens in our pockets for is the thing that theatre's really good at creating. So we're in that prime position to be content creators. We just used to call those rehearsal rooms and workshops and commissions. So what we've done is we've built some new spaces here. We shut for 2 months over the summer and raised £1.3 million to invest in the building. We did lots of decarbonisation, replaced all the radiators. It's 120-year-old theatre. So that was a large part of it. But what we also did was we built a new future-facing studio that is kitted out with PTZ cameras that automatically pan, tilt and zoom.
Right.
You press a button when you sit down and it follows you around the room.
Yeah,
you can talk to camera while it's doing it, or you can sit there. We've kitted the room out so that in one corner you can capture some stand-up on a mic. In another corner you can do a head-to-head interview like this. In another corner you can all sit around on a sofa. And the idea of that space is that if we're rehearsing with a sketch troupe, we can capture the rehearsals, because nowadays, if you want to, the old model of producing comedy or becoming a famous comic or or drag act or those kind of roles was get a good 10 minutes, get a good hour, tour the arts centres, go to Edinburgh, get a run at Soho, get on Mock the Week, sell out the Apollo.
Yeah.
That was the old model. The new model is get on TikTok, sell out a 600-seater. And that model means that you can get working class voices there quicker because they get paid faster. And that's why there's drop off in that sector. And actually, if we can capture the content on the first date of someone's tour, we're going to get better tours. So I'm hoping, and I've got good experience of running 150 seats. And even with titles like Fleabag and Baby Reindeer, it's hard to make your money.
Yeah.
So let's just get it so that those artists can get to selling 500 tickets a lot faster. And then they move on to those bigger venues, and we've got a pipeline of people coming through. And as you may know, Watford's bang in the middle of all these film studios, influencers, KSIs from around the corner. You've got that bubbling side hustle of what's my online presence going on everywhere in this town. So hopefully we can harness some of that and be a real part of that, and maybe create a model for a different way of doing things.
Yeah. Well, you actually went there from Soho Theatre. So how different was it from Soho Theatre when you were running that?
Well, I didn't come directly. I went via setting up my own pantomime company in a global pandemic. So it was a bit of a ride.
That's a good plan, wasn't it?
But I've got to say, there's something about this theatre that feels like a more natural fit to where I grew up and where I came from in terms of what I think a theatre can do. We're on the street into town. We're next to a kebab house. We're opposite a bookies. And I'll be honest, the street smells of weed. Now, that's where I want a theatre to be.
Yeah.
Direct conversation with what a town really is. And I do think if you can sell out Watford, you can sell out most cities and towns around the UK, because I think, it's 100,000 very diverse communities in this one town. So I think sold out in Watford would probably mean we'll do all right in Manchester, we'd be fine in Leicester, we'd do okay in Shrewsbury, so I think that's different, because I think Soho Theatre's brief was so specifically different. It was to offer an alternative in a studio space in the middle of the world theatre capital of the West End. Which suited my antagonistic nature and my mischief-making nature and my urge to find out how far you can go with certain things. But can't do that here. I'll shut it by Christmas.
Yeah.
So it's very different, but it feels nearer to the high street than the catwalk, and I like that.
Yeah. You mentioned before about the economic challenges. What are the challenges of running a theatre now? How has it changed in the time you've been running theatres?
Well, my first week as a chief exec was the week of the coalition government being elected. And I remember going in for a meeting with the Arts Council where we were basically told we were all getting cut and it could be quite bad.
Yeah.
And that hasn't turned around. And that was 2010. So it's been the best part of 20 years now of standstill funding, which for a company our size equates to about £500,000 a year.
Yeah.
Now, you carve that up any way you like, but that's more than 10 very good members of staff, or 2 or 3 subsidies for productions that might not quite clean their own face.
Mm.
That's a fundamental difference to how we can operate. So I think in terms of what the pie chart of where your income comes from looks like, the more we can make that earned income, the more secure our future is. And the great thing about earned income is no one tells you how to spend it. So you can then react and invest in the bits of the business side of the charity that we run.
Yeah.
And that are going to secure the future. So, finding different ways to sing for our supper is really the mandate. It suits my nature to be entrepreneurial alongside populist. I think art is more effective the more it reaches people, so I don't mind looking at popular work. But I haven't got much room to get it wrong, and that makes it very nice fun.
Yeah, margins are very tight.
Yeah. Yeah, and ability to cock it up is very tight. Like, there's certain ideas for shows that on paper, I can tell you from that Soho list of shows that we got through, and we commissioned people, places, things, all those sorts of pieces of work, that actually the pitch was not something someone would be able to commission now because it'd be too niche or too risky.
Yeah.
And if you end up with a kind of bland, all things to all people program across our theatres, then we've really had it.
Yeah. I've noticed a lot of theatres are going for co-productions now, which it's less choice for audiences. And also, I've spoken to a lot of artistic directors about this who say it's great that we can pool our resources into a bigger production, but then it was also nice the days when we could program something just for our audiences.
Yeah, well, that's what certainly what I'm finding with finding co-producers is actually our peers don't want to be producing the same sort of work as us.
Right.
And that makes it difficult too. That means you find yourself going down a Blythe Spirit path rather than a 28 Days Later, the musical. You know, so... Oh, that's not that. Anyway, you see what I mean, though?
Yeah.
There are compromises that really do come with that can be quite existential because they will set the tone because not many of us are producing more than 2 or 3 a year at the most now.
Yeah.
The other thing that you see a trend of happening is adaptations of classic IP.
Yeah.
is a good regional way of doing star casting where you haven't got the star already lined up, because the more hooks possible, please. So I've been pitched Wuthering Heights 3 times this week. Seriously. It's and you can see what that's off the back of. That's off the back of plays that go wrong, and it's off the back of Pride and Prejudice is sort of, and those kind of things. But yeah, that versus Doctor Who does Shakespeare can really narrow what the palette looks like and then what the choices for audiences look like. So finding ways to do exciting new plays is part of the trick. I think we've got a show coming up in the new year. I'm going to direct again for the first time in a couple of years. And it's a show called The Mesmerist, which is an actor you may know walks onto the stage and says, my granddad just died, and I found out after he died he was a magician. So I've learned his last ever show, and I'm going to do it for you tonight. And they start to do the show. By the end of the show, it's stopped twice. Audience members have been taken ill. You've been on a ghost train and a roller coaster all at the same time. And it's a Trojan horsed way of actually what is very simply a really well-written play.
Yeah.
We're packaging it as The Mesmerist.
Right.
So you could buy it on so many different levels as an offer from your local theatre. And hopefully everyone, by the time they realise they're not in Kansas anymore, is having a very nice time.
Yeah. What you're saying about Wuthering Heights, I'm thinking quite a few. I've seen loads of productions, a lot of them at one of my local theatres, where it's just 3 or 4 people. When the joke is that they're playing hundreds of characters from some Victorian novel, there's just so many of those about, isn't there?
There are, yeah. And ones where you go, oh no, the lead actor hasn't turned up. Yes, sir. And someone from the audience does it. They're great fun, but I mean, there'll be a bit of a flash in the pan, I suspect. Mischief Theatre have got the T-shirt on those. The play that goes wrong, Peter Pan that goes wrong, all those. They do the very best version of... That's the year-round panto.
Yes, yeah. What brought you to theatre directing in the first place, then?
The bit that got me... I mean, like most people drawn to theatre, as a kid, I was a tedious little attention seeker. And it was a good way of channeling... Well, it was the most efficient way to get the most number of people to look at me. What initially drew me to theatre. Now, the bit that turned me into a director and a writer was in my first year at University of Glamorgan, there were rehearsal spaces that were free to use. So I just got a group of mates together and started to think about what stories we had to tell. And I happened to be a survivor of the Hillsborough tragedy. So when I was 11, I was down the Leppings Lane end on the upper tier with my dad and witnessed this tragedy that at the time had happened only 7 years earlier. So from 11 to 18, I guess. It was my 19th birthday. I actually did the first production of this show, which was a play called 97 that I created with my friends around the story of my day at Hillsborough. And this is before we'd had the Justice campaign. This is before, 25, 30 years of the truth not being out there.
Yeah.
And what I had seen as an 11-year-old boy was not what I was being told had happened. So I kind of took hold of the pen myself on that one and told my one big story to tell. And I think going through that process at that time, I realised I probably would not feel like I had enough agency as an actor. And also, I am 6'5", so I'm never going to get Hamlet. I'm always going to be an oafish Banquo stood behind him.
Yeah. So you thought you'd be better behind the script or behind the camera?
Well, definitely, considering I just put Banquo into Hamlet. But I think a better coach than star striker is probably where my skills sit. I mean, if someone had told me what directing really was, I wouldn't have done it. You sit in a room with people who've got bigger egos than you, watching them repeat themselves and make mistakes, and you're allowed to help them right at the end as long as you haven't pissed them off. So, like that's on a bad day, that's directing. But I'm really looking forward to the Mesmerist because it's one performer and it's they've got lots of skills to learn. So it's a bit like rehearsing panto. Rehearsing panto is like running a youth club. Yeah. You come in and you say, right, you go and practice your dancing, you go and practice your singing, we'll go and tell some jokes, and I'll open the top shop.
And then we'll see if it all fits together.
Yeah. It's exactly that. So, I am looking forward to seeing how entertaining, how edge of the seat we can make that show.
The other way of describing directing, particularly with a small cast, is that you have the privilege of working with intensely on a script that you really like sometimes with professional actors who really know how to go deep into it and discovering things. And it can be a great experience, can't it, in the rehearsal room?
It really, really can. And you were just talking about the youth theatre production that you're working on. And my roots were as a teacher and a youth theatre director. And I think what I found with youth theatre was you'd chuck out a load of tools and they'd come back with you with the ones that were most effective for them. Yeah. And therefore you were making relevant and resonant work. And I think with actors, with professional actors, the joy is that they're bringing you choices as a director and you're encouraging them down the choices you think are the most interesting or are going to serve the function that you think the show serves the best.
Yeah.
So when it hits that level, it's an absolute honour to be in the room and have them ask your opinion. That's not always the room I've been in, but it's the one I aspire to be in the most, certainly.
Yeah. You try to focus on those parts. Those are the parts that stick in your mind.
Well, as I say, I haven't directed for a couple of years, so I clearly wasn't focusing on those parts.
So at Watford, apart from the panto, what else have you got coming up in the near future?
Well, Mesmerist, all eyes will turn to and be focused on as soon as the last glitter is brushed from the stage. Then we've got our big youth theatre summer production that I can't tell you the title of yet, but it will be building on SpongeBob the Musical and Bugsy, which were the last two they did. And then in the spring we've got a couple of really interesting commissions on the boil, one of them being a classic Oscar Wilde with a very different take on it, in the spirit I was just explaining to you of, if you've got the Oscar Wilde there, you might have sold 50 tickets a night as a start.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
And then we've commissioned a new adaptation of Oliver Twist from a very exciting kind of edgy, chaotic company. So we'll see what both of those, how those pots cook as we go. We've got the Reduced Shakespeare Company coming to see us. We have Spitfire Girls coming, which is a smashing show about the women who flew the Spitfires in the Second World War. Then, maybe a portrait of Dorian Gray in the autumn. And it's quite a strong theatre offer this year. I think last year it was harder to find that quality type of theatre that you'd really want to be doing. But this year it feels like there's a few more things on offer for us to take, and also we're making some of our own. At Christmas, in our new studio, our future-facing studio, with your youth theatre heritage, you may have heard of this game. You know a game called Werewolf?
Not sure. I might go under a different name.
Before there were traitors, there were werewolves.
Okay.
And this is the game that Traitors is based on.
Right.
And it is so similar in terms of during the day, villagers work out and try and banish someone who's a werewolf. During the night, the werewolves eat someone. So it works exactly like that. So we have invited Claudia Wolfelman to come and host our very own Work Christmas Do version of the Traitors. You arrive, a cocktail is placed in your hand. You drink it, you play our free arcade machines front of house. We've got a fortune-telling pig called Handalf and an anti-anxiety dog called Sir Ian Pickles. You play with those for a little while, then you go up. Claudia Wolfelman hosts you for a game of Werewolf with your colleagues. You take full revenge on your boss and your HR team, and then you go back down to play Shuttlepark, drink cocktails, or ever go on Street Fighter 2. So that's really leaning into the Palace of Entertainment, our place in the community, but also our place curating the very best live experiences you can have.
That was Steve Marmion, whose panto Jack and the Beanstalk will run at Watford Palace Theatre from the 29th of November 2025 to the 4th of January 2026. Werewolf will run at the same theatre from the 22nd of November to the 24th of December 2025, while The Mesmerist runs from the 2nd to the 21st of March 2026. For more information and tickets, see watfordpalacetheatre.co.uk.
You've been listening to a podcast from British Theatre Guide. For more information, please visit britishtheatreguide.info.